yesterday because I was concentrating.
Yes, I've got a cup of tea. I'm just coming back.
Hi, everyone. He's just gone off to get his cup of tea just as we went live. So I made the mistake of mentioning I got my coffee here and I wasn't going to let it get cold today. So it disappeared. Now he's back. Okay, I'm not sure we've got any. I'm not sure we've got anyone actually in yet, but they might be.
We've got some comments coming up already. Some smiley faces.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Oh, we got one viewer now. According to this, 11 viewers now. I think this viewer counter is a bit kind of behind the times.
Yours is low. I've got 25 watching now.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. So, right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to day 3, or you're almost at the end of day 3. We're just at the start. So we're well equipped. We've got our morning brews. So hopefully there won't be too much slurping going on. Yeah, it reminds me of a horrible story, but I won't. It's too early in the morning. I'm not going to think about that. Right. So what we said we'd do today is talk about your introductory post. I've just noticed on Twitter, actually, someone was asking about the difference between the introductory post and the About Me post, which is a reasonable question. And the About Me post is really just your own personal introduction. Most blog themes have a specific section called About Me, or something like that, where you can just put in something about yourself, you know, who you are, a picture, what your blog's about, that kind of thing. But the introductory post, that's the one that we're going to be talking about now, and I've put a separate blog post up about it. That's where we're asking you to effectively have a trial run at answering the questions as you would for assessment on this module. So there's a specific question attached to that, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, so that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, so in summary, in summary, the About Me is just literally, you know, kind of a short, sort of, however you like to do it really, but a short statement about who you are, what you like to do, you know, what makes you tick. But the introductory post is much more focused on your digital literacies and on the digital residents, digital visitors, which we're going to come on to talk to you about more now.
Great. Okay, so have we got any initial questions first off?
Apart from that one through Twitter, there was an earlier one about 5 minutes ago asking us similarly about the introductory post, but what exactly was the question? I responded to that on Twitter, and we'll discuss it in more detail now. So that question should be happily answered in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Apart from that, we've just had one coming in from Victoria. Yeah, that's right. She says, we only have to fill up the About Me section, right? Do we have to do a post about it? No, you don't have to do a post about it. It's just there to give your blog some sort of sense of order, if you like, so that if somebody comes to your blog, they can click on that and just learn a little bit about who you are, why they should read what you've written, what makes you somebody worth their time to read, and so on and so on. So it's just that's just a you know, an extra thing to do to make your blog look more professional. The actual introductory post is part of the assignment.
I think you've got your volume on the other.
No, I think that's you, Lise.
Volume on the other.
I think that's you.
I haven't got it open. I've only got one open.
Oh well, I'm definitely on mute on that.
Oh well. Mysterious voices in the call. Right. What was I going to say? I was going to say something about the About Me. Yeah, normally if I come across a blog post, for example, if someone shared something on Twitter with a link to a blog post and I open it, I usually look at the About Me, if I've not come across the author before, just to see really who they are, whether I think it's going to be worth my time to read their post. You know, is it someone who knows something about the subject, or is it just some sort of random rant? Because you get everything. So it is important, I think. It is a bit of a checking point for viewers to your blog, just to get a little bit of context about, you know, whether they should read any further or not. And also an important, more general point about your blogs. We haven't looked at them yet, obviously, but we will be soon. Sometimes people don't necessarily fill out all the sort of templates that WordPress gives you when you start. So it will then show up with kind of blank spaces. So just something to bear in mind when you're going through your blog and setting up your first posts, that if there is a section which asks you for some information and you haven't completed it, it might just show up as incomplete to a viewer. But we can, if we come across any of those, we can point them out. Right, where were we? So we were talking about questions about me and intro posts and that kind of thing. Right, okay, so I put a post up yesterday which is a little bit of background about digital visitors and digital residents, which also includes a question for you, which is what we're asking you to answer in your introductory post.
Although I should say it's not exactly in the form of a question, which is what makes it perhaps slightly confusing. It asks you to discuss your digital literacy levels in relation to the digital residents and visitors. It doesn't actually have a specific question. And that might be why some people are slightly unclear on what the question is. So it's more like a task.
More like a task, right. The task is to understand. So, so hopefully we can clarify all of that now in this session. So any other questions popped up?
Nope, we're good to go.
We've got any smiley faces? Anybody happy?
Lots of smiley faces. Victoria's happy with our answer. Alicia's happy with our answer. Yvonne's looking forward to the class starting.
Brilliant.
Lots of happy people.
Good. Now, I've realised we didn't actually get any photos yesterday. On the first day, we had quite a few nice pictures when you were all in a big group. It would be great if we could get a few more. I know you're probably not all in a big group now, but last year we had some great pictures of the views out of people's windows, or a group of people in a cafe, all sorts of things. Oh, and the one in the car, of course, which is a classic.
Lots of good images of delicious looking Singaporean food as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was, That
made me very hungry at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, and also we got pictures from people in cafes with food at about 4 in the morning, your time. So we thought that was interesting as well, and very, very much fits in with the theme of living and working on the web. Is where and when we choose to work these days.
Exactly.
Anyway,
and it's nice for us to see them as well, because it helps us to feel more connected to you as students as well, if we can share some of those things together.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Right, okay, so then in terms of timings, your first deadline is going to be coming up pretty soon, which is the way in which you produce and submit this introductory post. Now remember, it's not actually assessed, but it gives you an opportunity to practice, and it gives us an opportunity to give you a bit of feedback on whether you're in the right direction or what things you might like to change when it comes to doing the main first post tomorrow. So we're starting to sort of crank the deadlines up now. You've had a couple of days to get things started, and hopefully if there are still any queries about blog setup or anything, Sarah will be here tomorrow, but by all means ping them through before then, and we don't want anyone to get left behind. Which reminds me, actually, I didn't have a chance to answer it, but I did quickly see on Twitter when I was setting up just now, there was a question about using different blog platforms. And my answer to this is, yes, you can, but please bear in mind that we might not necessarily, depending on what platform you choose, we might not necessarily be able to hook it up into the module block. And that applies particularly to some of the newer types of blog, things like Wix, for example, which is sort of more like a diary than a blog, but it's quite popular. And it's great for some things, but we did have problems trying to connect it into the module blog. I think last year from the Singapore group, just about everybody used WordPress. Sometimes people have already got an existing blog, and we've managed to hook those in the past. But just, bear in mind, you're welcome to try a different type if you really have a strong preference. but bear in mind we might need to have some toing and froing about getting it hooked into the module blog. Does that make sense? Everybody up to speed?
Very great picture from Ming, just came in.
Oh, brilliant.
Although I'm not entirely convinced that McDonald's is quite the best place to be concentrating on class. The lure of the burgers could distract you away.
I'm just going to share the screen and look at the blog so I can see that and everyone can see it, hopefully.
We also had a question from about, is the submission strict at 12 AM or at 12 midnight? And the answer to that is yes, it is. Because obviously our time, that's actually more like 4 o'clock in the afternoon for us. And we need to start marking that work almost immediately. So it's much better for us if we've got all the work together and we can start work on that straight away. So the midnight deadline is strict. Unless, of course, you have a genuine reason why you can't particularly meet that deadline, a good reason, a university acceptable reason for not making it. Being out at a good student party until midnight, I didn't quite cut it. So it's a strict deadline. Don't get too obsessed. If you've got a genuine reason, talk to us, and that's fine. Otherwise, please try and be on time because it will make everything better for everybody involved. Yep,
that's a very good summary. Right, you should be able to see the module blog on your screen now. Ah, there, it's just pinged up. There's a picture of Nick on someone's laptop screen. Fantastic. They seem to be coming through quite slowly from Twitter because that picture you mentioned just now doesn't seem to be there yet.
No, well, we've got a couple more. Somebody seems to be either eating or querying about dino nuggets. I have absolutely no idea what they are.
I don't think we want to know.
I hope they're chicken nuggets in the shape of a dinosaur, not actually nuggets
here we go.
made out of dinosaur.
Right. Okay, so there's a picture of me on the screen next to these rather suspicious looking dino nuggets. Okay, interesting. Right, so I've got 2 pictures in the Twitter stream now. So they just
We've got more coming on. It's good. Keep these pictures coming, everyone.
Oh, and there's a tweet just popped up. Heard it's really cold in the UK. Stay warm and drink coffee. Yes, I'm warm and I've got my coffee. Thank you, Victoria.
I'm taking a slightly more English approach. I'm warm and I've got my tea.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. Enough wittering about pictures. So, right. While I'm actually in the module blog here, just to point out that there are a couple of extra posts there since we talked yesterday. So there's the summary of yesterday's session. Obviously, I'll do that each day. So there'll be a review of day 3 posted a bit later on. But also, Sarah's put up a post about putting categories into your posts. We'll say more about this tomorrow. But for now, just bear in mind when you're posting your introductory post, just give it a category of intro posts. And then you will see that all the intro posts should then display in this section, which we've titled intro posts, so they'll all be in one place. Now, they might not necessarily be because it's the intro post and you're still practicing and we haven't actually hooked your blogs in yet, but in theory, that's where they will all be eventually. And this is the post that I'm referring to now that I put up yesterday, some notes to help you with your introductory post. So,
excuse me.
Okay. So just looking quickly through this, it's a very short post. We're looking for a maximum of 300 words. Although, as we said the other day, bear in mind that you can think about different ways of putting your thoughts across that don't necessarily depend on words. So, relevant images or diagrams, for example. And managing to incorporate your self-test results in some way is a good idea. And that doesn't have to be necessarily in words. It could be as a graph or some kind of picture. Suggest you have a look back at last year and see what people did, the different ways in which they displayed that information. We've also put a link there to one of the sections in the MOOC, and that will help you again with some ideas, or to help you develop your ideas about how you might like to present this post. So we said that we would refer you to relevant MOOC sections as we go through. So that's the first kind of direct reference there. Right, then we go on to just say a little bit about digital natives, digital immigrants, digital visitors, and digital residents. So there's a lot of terms there, and it's quite important to distinguish them and not use the wrong one at the wrong time, if you know what I mean, because they do have quite different interpretations. So, Nick, I don't know if you're the big guru on this. Do you want to say a little bit more background to help people get started with this topic?
Yeah, sure. So, some considerable number of years ago, in the mid-noughties, a particular writer, his name was Prensky, started to look at behaviours online and to think about the web and how it was affecting society in some ways. And he coined a terminology called digital natives and digital immigrants. And he slightly simplistically made the main dividing factor for that those born before 1990 counted as digital immigrants, essentially because they were born before the web and hadn't grown up with it, while those born after were considered as digital natives. Digital immigrants were supposed to find the web kind of difficult, while digital natives found the web easy. And this was a lot to do with people's age. The reasons that he gave, but the media liked those words and jumped on it. And so you started to see lots of reports in newspapers about digital natives and digital immigrants. Since then, however, further people, and the link we've given you to the White and de Cornu article is an important one, because they were particularly important in exploring this sort of division of people in more detail and with more accuracy. They moved away from the terms native and immigrant and towards resident and visitor, and they didn't divide it by age. They divide it by some other things. And that's a more accurate or more nuanced understanding of the way the web impacts different people's lives in different situations. So that's briefly the bit of background. But the idea is that for some who are, if you imagine that you're a digital visitor, then the web is somewhere that you go to visit, literally. You know, you go there to do something and you come away again, much as you might go to the garage, get your car, use your car and put it back in the garage. It's the same thing with a digital visitor. With a digital resident, on the other hand, some part of their identity tends to live on the web. So they're much likely to be much more active on things like social media, to have some sort of profiles and identity across the web that in effect sort of continues to web even when you're not actually Facebook open or Twitter open or with any of the other Snapchats or Instagrams. So part of you lives on the web, hence you're digitally resident. So what we'd like you to do is to explore those the spectrum that runs between digital resident and digital visitor. It's rare that somebody is all one thing or all the other. You're normally somewhere in between on this spectrum. That's an important concept to keep in mind. This isn't a one or the other. It's a spectrum. So what we're asking you to do is to have a look at your own digital literacy levels, and the self-test will help you to understand where you are with that. We're asking you to think about your own behavior online and see where that aligns with being a resident or being a visitor or being somewhere on the spectrum in between. And then we would like you to post about your understanding of the resident visitor explanation for web behavior, and where you think you sit on that spectrum and why. And that's what we're looking for you to do in this first post.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So just to summarize that, we think these sort of initial discussions, which were very much based on age, are far too simplistic, and we don't want any of you to sort of come up with some very kind of bland comments like, I'm much better on the web than my mum because I'm younger, kind of thing. Because I think we know, and many studies have shown that actually there's it's a lot more complicated than that. So you can explore those themes through the reading that we've given you, and any other relevant articles or videos or whatever that you come across. And yeah, as Nick says, put it in the context of your own behaviour. There isn't a right or wrong answer. We're not trying to find out who's the most resident or who's the least resident. It's just asking you to reflect on where you personally sit. And that then may change during the course of this module. And when we get to the end, we'll ask you to do the self-test again and think about in what ways you might have changed, and how your behaviour differs or does not differ, and what that means for how you live and work and learn on the web going forwards. I think we should. Sorry, Nick.
Excuse me. I was going to say, on the MOOC, I think it's steps 1.13. It might be 1.11. I'm not sure. Somewhere around 1.13, I think, at the start of the section where you investigate your personal learning network. Actually, at the start of the survey there's a little bit on digital residents and visitors as well. Some questions you can ask yourself that will help you know where to position yourself. So you could use the MOOC to help you there as well. Looks like there's a couple more pictures in, Lisa. One of a beautiful looking rainbow. That seems to have appeared after the rain in Singapore at the moment. Looks great. And a couple more of these desk buddies who are clearly very important.
Buddies. Oh,
but
wow.
The idea with the visitors and residents is for you to understand what that really means and to think about that in relation to yourself and your own behaviors, and then to tell us about that. Once you've done that, you then need to follow the same basic approaches. In fact, well, Lisa, this is right, isn't it? You do then comment and then reflect, exactly like a normal topic, right?
Sorry, Nick, can you say that again?
So when you, in the introductory post, because we've had a couple of questions about this, once you've blogged about yourself and the digital residents visitors and your understanding of that, you do then read other people's comments and then reflect.
Oh, no, we haven't put that in for this topic. It's just the one post. I mean, you're very welcome to comment and reflect, but we're just asking for this intro topic. We're just asking for the one post.
Right. So forgive me. So forgive me, people. I've given you some wrong information there because it's changed since last year. My apologies.
Yeah.
It is just the one introductory post.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no need to comment. There's no need to reflect. That's my apologies. I got that wrong, everyone.
Yeah, because we've just allocated the one day for this, and we go on to the proper topic one tomorrow. So we're not asking you to do all three aspects of a topic here. It's just really to get you started with the blogging, and make sure your blogs are set up and to get you thinking along the right lines. So yeah, I've just seen there's a tweet here from Michelle asking about, do we need to comment? So no, you're very welcome to comment, but we're not actually going to be assessing that. Well, we're not assessing the post at all. We're just going to feed back on your own introductory post this time. I'm just having a look to see if there's anything else. Okay, there's
a question from Ming, who asks that she's aware that the self-test is divided into two columns, one that says rating at the start of the module, one that says rating at the end. Which do we fill in with our introductory post? Well, I think you can probably figure that one out, Ming. Are we at the start, or are we at the end? I guess we're probably at the start. And one of the things we may ask you to do, or that you may choose to do, is that when we do get to the end, you would fill in the end column, and you can see how much your literacies have improved or not as a result of this module. So all we need to do now is look at the start column.
Yeah, and also have a look at last year and see what people did about displaying within their post the results of their self-test, because it really is quite boring to just put a copy of a Word document in the post. You can do that, but some people were a lot more creative and they put like a graph or a picture or some different way of displaying the results, a pie chart or whatever appeals to you. But yeah, bearing in mind you're starting with a very kind of boring piece of paper, effectively, and have a think about doing something creative with it. And that's the kind of mindset to get into throughout the module, really. Have we got any other questions, Nick?
Yeah, we did have a question a while ago, actually, about word counts. So the question asked, do any words that are used in the visual elements count towards the word count? And the answer is no, they don't. And that is deliberate. So the word count is actually quite short for a lot of these posts, especially once you get into the sort of deep into the main topic questions. That's for a reason, because actually you'll need to use some of the visual elements, such as the infographics, the PowerPoint, embedded PowerPoints or other slides, embedded videos that you may have made or found, or just images. Any text in those does not count to the word counts on the posts. So this is a way for you to be able to explore any particular topic in much more detail without being limited by the word count to just saying very simplistic things. That's an important point, and you should keep that in mind. The visuals are not just there to make it look pretty, they are actually there to help you explain things more deeply without running over the word limit.
Yeah, but that's a very good point, though. Do bear in mind that what we don't want to see is someone putting in a picture which is basically just a photograph of lots of text, because that's cheating.
Well, if you say that's not a visual. Visuals must be visual. So we don't want a nice green background filled up with red writing just because it looks pretty. That's not the idea. The idea is to visually represent the information, and that might require a few words, but we're not looking for text on a pretty colored background.
Yeah. So yes, that's a very good point. And yeah, this, like what we say, this post is an opportunity to explore, try things out, and as I keep saying, do have a look back and see what other people have done to give yourself some ideas. Another point to bear in mind is, don't go too mad. Sometimes people think that they have to put everything into a post just to show that they can do everything. So they'll have several images, they'll have a video, they'll have an infographic, and just in one post, they'll try and put every possible tool into that post just to sort of make it look. But that's what we'd probably call overkill. The key thing is to use whatever you think is relevant to add to your argument, but not just put things in for the sake of it because you think that it looks good. So being selective about what you choose to put in is more important than saying, right, I'm just going to shove everything in it. Okay.
A very good idea to help you with that is to look at the marking criteria and to see what things we're actually looking to award marks to you for. And the marking criteria statements are quite clear, and they give you a very good guide as to how you can get different grades, and eventually hopefully you'll improve enough up to be getting the top grades. So do explore the marking criteria in detail. Take time to read it. It's a document in the Google Docs drive, which you will get access to. I don't know if you have it already, but you certainly will have access to it once Sarah's managed to incorporate all the details that you provided through the forms. So check that out to give you an idea of the sorts of things we're looking for with the visuals. But one of the things, and this is Lisa's point, that we're looking for is that visuals are not just there to make it look attractive. Support the arguments that you're making. They must add, develop, or deepen the arguments that you're trying to make in your post. They're not just pictures for pictures' sake.
Yeah.
And that actually relates to a question that we had from Chanel, who is asking where will they receive the feedback?
Good question. Yes. Just quickly, what I remembered on your previous point, Nick, that there is a copy in the study guide of the marking criteria. So you have to scroll down. I think it's near the bottom, but the study guide has got the table of marking criteria that we'll be using. Now,
just to clarify, just to clarify for everyone, we are expecting students to self-assess, or we're not expecting students to self-assess for this first one?
Not for the first one, no.
No. Okay. So just to make that clear to everybody, normally topics 1, 2, and 3, you will actually mark yourself on according to the assessment criteria. But for topic 1, there's no need for that. So topic 1 is just the first introductory post, no comments, no reflection, and no self-marking. Just to make that very clear.
Okay, yeah, it really is just a getting started and practice post. Okay. I forgot what I was going to say. There was something else about. Oh yes, it was about the feedback. That's it. You said there was a question about feedback. Yeah. One of the reasons we asked you for a Gmail address was that we will set up a document. We use Google Drive, and we set up a feedback document for each of you. And when we've completed the feedback on your first post, you'll be able to see our comments on that particular document. I'm not sure how far Sarah's got with setting it up. I think she said she was going to do it this morning because she was in London yesterday until late. So by the time you've submitted your posts and we've marked them, you should then be able to, you'll get a link to that document where you can see the feedback. Okay, although there might not actually be anything to see just yet.
So, and important thing to say to you is that each of your feedback documents are private to you. So the 3 of us tutors can see it and you can see it, but none of your classmates can see that. So that's a private space where we can give you the feedback. And in fact, you can respond to our feedback as well if you wish, through that or by tweeting us or whatever. But your feedback document is private to you. That's one of the things in this course that's not publicly shared across the group.
Yeah, that's true. Right, have we got any other questions come in?
No, we've got lots of nice new pictures coming in.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at those a minute.
Looks like Macs are pretty popular.
Hang on a second.
Yes, we've had a question from Nirad, who seems to be a Blade Runner fan. I actually quite enjoyed your misposted post there. It's good to see that people are liking that film. The original is one of those cult classics that I enjoy watching a few times. He asks, the idea that the post should be strong enough to stand alone and the visuals should just be an additional element to add depth and emphasis to our point. Yeah, kind of. But in reality, the visuals and the text will work in harmony. So you'll construct your argument through the words that you use and the images and visuals and graphics and videos and all these other things that you put there. Taken as a whole, those things are working together to present your argument. So the visuals could add something, they could deepen something, they could extend something, but what they shouldn't be is just there because, you know, it's funny or you just like that particular image or that particular video. Okay, so you need to think of them as the text and the visuals working absolutely together to create your argument. Yeah,
that's a very good summary. And another point about images that you need to bear in mind as well is that you make sure you credit the owner of any image that you use and make sure that you actually have permission to share it. So, for example, if you were to include an image of a Disney cartoon, you might find that you might upset a few people because they're very particular about their copyright, as are lots of major companies. So there are plenty of freely shareable images available on the web. And if it is freely shareable, it should say so. And therefore, you know that it's quite safe to use, and you just put a link underneath the image saying where you got it from. So if you're not sure, the rule is don't use it. If you think if it's not clear whether you're allowed to actually use a particular image in a different context, then just don't use it. That's the safest thing to say. Obviously, any images that you've created yourself are your own copyright, and you're perfectly free to do what you wish with those. But if you're using somebody else's image, do bear in mind that they may or may not have given permission for others to use it.
And on that point, actually, which is obviously if you do use somebody else's image, then you need to reference it. And also that's the same with any, as usual with a piece of academic writing, if you quote an academic or anyone, you need to reference that. So, and by that, there are two things that we're looking for there. The first would be a hyperlink from the text itself, much as Lisa does in most of the posts that she puts up, but also a proper formal reference at the bottom of the blog post in more like the Harvard style or any particular style you're used to. We don't specify which type of referencing style to use. So use the one that you're familiar with and that you use in most of your other studies. If that's Harvard, it's Harvard. If it's APA, it's APA, or it could be any of the other ones. The point is, though, that you need to reference both in the text and at the end in a kind of little bibliography at the end of the post. That will also help to deal with any copyright issues as well.
Yeah, okay. And obviously, we're throwing a lot of information at you here. And if there are any specific issues that come up in your particular posts, we can feed back to you directly on those after we've read them, which is another reason for doing this trial post, if you like, anyway. Okay, how are we doing on the questions front?
No more questions coming at the moment. If people are happy, send us smiley faces.
Yeah, we like smiley faces.
If you've got any more questions, get them in quick.
Perhaps I'll just do a little summary of where we're at then, just while we're checking to see if there are any final questions. So basically what we're asking from you next is for you to write and submit this introductory post, and make sure if you've still got any queries about your blog setup to ping those through as quickly as possible. When we've got your posts, we will read them and feed back to you as quickly as possible, so that when you start topic 1 tomorrow, you've got some kind of hopefully clear understanding of how you want to approach it and things to bear in mind and to change based on the introductory post that you made. So tomorrow, Sarah will be with me tomorrow, and we'll do any troubleshooting that we need to do. We'll also talk about putting categories on your posts to make sure they appear in the right place, and obviously deal with any particular issues that come out of the feedback, any general issues that come out of the feedback on the introduction post. Are you typing that in? Have we got questions?
Yeah, I've had a question from Chanel. It's a very good question. And so this is a great example. So she starts off by asking, is there a framework for measuring where on the spectrum we are? So I've typed some responses to that, but to give it to everybody verbally, try using your network learning skills and do a search and see if you can find anything like that. You might find something by JISC, for example, JISC. Also, the MOOC step that I mentioned previously might help you with that too. And then if you find anything really useful like that, tweet the link to the class or share it so that we can all enjoy it and find out. Also, the self-test that Lisa's talked about that you'll be looking at to assess your digital literacies could give you some help with that as well. But use the web, see what you can find, and use the MOOC, see what you can find, and hopefully you'll be able to answer your own question.
Okay, sounds suitably cryptic. We are living and working on the web, remember. It is a source of continually evolving knowledge, and I guess the key issue these days is not sort of finding things. It's we can find things very easily, but the key thing is to evaluate the worth of what we find. We all have heard about fake news, and I was at a lecture last night called A Year of Trump. It was basically on the anniversary of Donald Trump winning the presidency, and talking about some of the things that have happened over the past year, which was. But yeah, I mean, so some of it's kind of ironic that some of the issues that we've covered in our MOOC and in this course now have such a sort of global prominence.
Yeah, this is also interesting because I attended a Twitter live stream debate from a conference yesterday called Innovate UK, and they had a range of panelists talking about automation, artificial intelligence, and robotics, and some of the impact that that will have. And all of the candidates, even though they disagreed with each other in many ways, the one thing they all agreed on was the need for people to have the right skills to be able to learn throughout their lives, something we called lifelong learning. And this included, for example, the head of Rolls-Royce, the head of Innovate UK, various famous professors. They all agreed that we need to have the skills to be able to train, retrain, and learn for ourselves. What they actually used, the really nice phrase they used was learn and relearn. And we need to be able to do that for our entire lives. And this module and this blog and this way of working that we're hoping to introduce you to is exactly part of that, of equipping you with the abilities and skills to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn throughout the rest of your life, which is something you probably have to do as the workplace changes. A quick question from Stella. She says, for the intro post, when we use information from readings, do we reference it in the post in Harvard style? Stella, the answer is yes, if Harvard is the style that you prefer. If you prefer to use a different one or you're familiar with a different one, that's fine, just so long as the in-text reference is there, normally in the form of a hyperlink, and the either with a footnotes or a bracketed section, depending, that leads down to the bibliography with the full reference at the bottom. So yeah, we need it in text and we need a reference stroke bibliography section at the end.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, sir?
Nope. More smiley faces. People seem happy. Neerad's happy.
Okay.
Ava's happy. Stella's happy.
Good. Good to hear. Yeah, and thank you for all those pictures. Keep those coming in. It really helps us to get a bit of a flavour of what it's like at your end, because from our perspective, all I can see is Nick and all Nick can see is me. So and we can talk to each other whenever we want. So it's not quite the same. Okay. Yeah, well, I think we love them. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said keep the pictures coming. We love them.
We do, yes. Right, well, we're going to end there today then. I'll put up a summary post of this session very shortly, and we look forward to reading your introductions, and it should be good. We're cracking on. Gosh, we've done day 3 now. We're cracking on really quickly. So it'll be over before you know it.
But it's midnight tonight, isn't it, for the first deadline?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so is there anything else there? You look like you're about to. Oh,
yeah, sorry, there is one. Zoe, the idea is that our posts should be strong. Oh, okay. That's a similar point to Neerad. Yeah, one question from Twitter. Yeah, so Zoe, just to quickly respond to that again, the text and the visual should work together in harmony to your complete argument with enough depth. It's not about the two things standing alone or separate from each other. They should work together. So if you make a point in the text and you have a visual that strengthens that, that's great. Or if you make a point in a visual and then you explain it in the text, that's great. Those sorts of things. However you choose to do it, really. I remember, it's your blog, it's your identity that you're expressing. So however you choose to do it, but they need to work together and be there to work, to provide a unified argument, not just pictures for picture's sake or lots of words just because I like writing words.
Yes, that's true. And I think just to end, it's probably important to say that we've thrown a lot of things at you. I hope we haven't given you the impression that it's all really, really difficult, because it isn't. It should be fun and interesting for you. I mean, normally people find blogging quite refreshing in comparison to doing, say, an essay, for example. And it might be a little scary if you've not done it before. And we're saying, well, you've got to think about this, and this. But actually, when it comes to doing it, I think you'll find it's actually quite fun, and you enjoy it. And you don't need to put everything that we've said into every post. So, we've just tried to sort of cover a number of bases here. But don't think this is some really sort of big thing that's really difficult, because it's not. Okay, is that a fair comment, Nick?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's only
So,
300 words.
yes. Only 300 words. Yes.
300 words. Can do that in 10 minutes.
Right, we better go before they start throwing metaphorical smileys at us. Right.
Great. Have fun with this one, guys. Enjoy it.
Okay.
Let's have some
We will
stuff.
see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.